Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me on yet another edition of The Verdict. And today I have with me a very special guest, somebody who's been the most prominent and most visible face of the Congress party on television debates for the last 7 years. He's been staunchly defending the grand old party and the first family of the Congress, but suddenly found himself out of favor after he held a mirror of accountability to the Congress leadership on issues of the courtship culture and the lack of internal democracy. I have with me Sanjay Jha, former spokesperson of the Congress party, or as he would like to describe himself, sacked as the national spokesperson for writing India needs a reawakened and revitalized Congress. That's what his Twitter bio says. Sanjay, thank you for joining me on this edition of The Verdict. It's a pleasure having you, but I'm going to get straight to the questions, and don't mind me for doing that. Sanjay, were you shocked, were you surprised with the kind of response that came from the Congress party leadership, virtually sacking you from the post of the spokesperson within hours after you wrote that piece, which was quite brutally honest in its title at least, Congressmen watching silently as the party hurtles towards political obsolescence? I mean, did you find it shocking, surprising?
Shehzad, so I will stick to your diktat and give you short, crisp answers, right? So I remember when my friend Salman Soz and I wrote an article actually in the month of March, recommending a whole lot of strategies to resurrect the Congress. Salman at that point joked with me that we should be very grateful that we are still part of the Congress party. So in a great number of ways, after the June article, I was expecting the fact that actually the Congress leadership, somebody senior, it didn't have to be the Congress president or even Mr. Rahul Gandhi, anybody would have called me to talk to me about why was I really feeling so disillusioned or disenchanted. That never happened. But when I was removed as the national spokesperson, frankly, I did not think much of it until a colleague of mine pointed out, who said, listen, I'm rather miffed. I'm feeling very annoyed and, almost, shall we say, angry that the Congress party puts out a terse note that says that you are to be dropped with immediate effect for 7 years. Actually, you said 7 years, but if you look at my Hamara Congress tenure earlier, I have been battling it out for the Congress since 2010. So it's almost been a decade. And the fact that there was not even a word of gratitude for what I had done, I would say that's more a reflection of the Congress, not on me. I continue to be a congressman by DNA as it is in my Twitter bio. Sanjay, I will continue to fight for the party.
That is good. But Sanjay, but doesn't it betray a sense of intolerance, something that, particularly in the context of 45 years of the emergency, Amit Shah also tweeted about it, that party leaders are unable to find their voice because the emergency DNA continues to exist in the Congress party leadership. Doesn't it actually confirm that fact that there is absolute intolerance to anybody who's not from a dynasty and who holds up a mirror of accountability to the leadership?
See, I do believe that the Congress party needs to actually, not just practice internal democracy, but be an epitome. I mean, frankly, we got to be the fountainhead of transparency. Shehzad, if you read my article, you'll notice that I did mention there about Jawaharlal Nehru writing letters to himself anonymously, cautioning himself as an advisory not to become autocratic. That to me is a true democratic spirit. Let me give you another extraordinary example that many people may not be aware of. Firoz Gandhi, Mr. Firoz Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi's grandfather, he actually,
much about.
Yeah, but he is the one who actually exposed a corruption. When Pandit Nehru, his own father-in-law, was the prime minister, the Congress had no opposition. And he was an elected member from Raebareli. But he exposed corruption in the government of an LIC investment into some Kolkata company. And it led to the resignation of the finance minister, T.T. Krishnamachari, in 1958. That is the real Congress party that I personally feel I belong to. And therefore, my short answer to you will be that at the end of the day, the Congress needs to go back to its roots. Everybody has to do that. Companies do it, NGOs do it, individuals do it, CEOs do it. Political parties need to do it more often. And I think the further we drift from our ideology, the more we essentially imbalance our own future existence.
But Sanjay, you see, you're giving me the reference of Firoz Gandhi. I mean, he was also, in a sense, reduced to political oblivion, especially by the current leadership of the party, which does not even pay any obeisance to him during his birthdays or any other anniversaries. But that's another point. The point I'm trying to make is, Sanjay, on the one hand, the Congress party has been going on and on about stifling of dissenting voices in the country. They talk about democratic institutions being assaulted by the Modi government. But here they are within the party stifling voices of dissent, probably not even voices of dissent, probably voices of legitimate reason, and also not allowing any sense of internal democracy to prevail in the party. So how can you be the vanguards of democracy in the country when you don't have democracy within your own party? That's my question.
Shehzad, pertinent point. I mean, let me try and decouple that argument a little bit. The fact that India has definitely become anti-democratic, if you look at the fact that a lot of members of the media, NGOs, activists, threats of defamation and FIRs, there is no denying. If you look at the World Press Freedom ranking, India has definitely, under Mr. Modi's government, become a lot more authoritarian. There's no doubt about that. I keep maintaining that you had an official emergency, but since Mr. Modi became Prime Minister, there has been an insidious, almost, shall we say, imperceptible emergency in India, very unofficial in nature. That I think is actually more dangerous. But to answer your question, I agree that this is why politics is tough, Shehzad. You are like a goldfish bowl. If I and you today are saying something on television, it's on record, right? You and I cannot say one thing today and something else a week later. Otherwise, we become, object of ridicule. And therefore, it is important for the Congress to walk the talk. The fact that somebody like me made some constructive suggestions that it should get some people in the Congress party so uptight and hassled that they sacked me from a national spokesperson without even a word of acknowledgement is for the Congress party to figure out. I remain a loyal soldier. I can't help it if the mothership has some internal hassles to sort out.
Sanjay, I don't doubt that you're continuing to be a loyal soldier of the party, and that reflects more on you. But here's what I'm trying to get at, Sanjay. You had the BJP, or Mr. Modi is called a dictator. He's called Hitler every night, right? But you had a situation where Yashwant Sinha, you had people who were very critical, Shatrughan Sinha, all of these people were within the BJP. They were never sacked. They went on and on about the BJP, about Mr. Modi. Here you have the most loyal soldiers of the Congress party, Sanjay Jha. He says something which is very legitimate, very rational, something that should be said to the leadership, and he gets sacked within a matter of hours. Now, here's the difference. And you made the point about reporters being hounded. Sir, what do you think about the reporters that were being hounded by the Congress party? You have a prominent journalist from your city who is probably not friends with you these days, but he was called for 12 hours merely because he raised questions on Palghar. He was being questioned by the police in Mumbai. You had another reporter, Mr. Abhijit Majumdar, who's been sued for defamation for writing a piece saying exactly what you've said. What about...
Shehzad, I will just say one thing. I do believe, and I've said so openly, even when my friend, I would rather say that, Arnab Goswami and I probably don't chat these days. But the fact is, I have a lot of respect for the fourth estate. I believe they are the pillars of democracy. Now, there's no denying that the Indian media itself has probably not conducted itself in the most professionally, what I call as dispassionate, impartial manner. But that's a different story. That's a different story. That's a different story.
Is the Congress party leadership intolerant, Sanjay? Is the Congress party leadership the ones who talk on and on about intolerance, about award wapsi, about growing, about reducing space for dissent? Does the Congress party itself not stand accused of being extremely intolerant with the way they've treated you?
Well, I kind of, looking at the overwhelming support I've received, not just on social media, but from friends and colleagues and supporters and well-wishers and a lot of people from within the Congress. Let me tell you this very openly on your channel. I've had over 22 people from within the Congress party who called me up and said that they felt this action against me was deeply unfortunate, highly regrettable.
Sanjay, it's all so good to have these positions in private conversations, to call you up probably on a video call or on your telephone and say that we feel so bad for you, Sanjay. But Sanjay, when the time comes to take a position to say that Sanjay Jha said nothing wrong, he's only upheld a principle that puts party interest above family interest, why isn't it being done in public? In fact, let me quote to you what you've said in your article. You said that a few days after your first article with Salman Soz appeared, a noteworthy colleague of mine in our informal group descended on me like a ton of bricks. I mean, Sanjay, you're contradicting yourself. I have read your pieces very carefully and I've come well prepared. So Sanjay, please tell me, which version is it that you want me to believe? The tolerant Congress party or the intolerant leadership of the Congress? Which version is it?
Shahzad, what I'm really enjoying about our conversation is that both of us have so often done shows and programs together, batting for the Congress. So this is quite a surrealistic experience. But anyway, let me answer your question. And I'm glad that you're an aggressive anchor. I'm quite enjoying this combative exchange with you.
No, I'm upholding rights that should have been upheld by leaders of the Congress, which they didn't do when I raised those points as well, Sanjay. Nobody spoke up for me and nobody's speaking up for you.
Well, truth be said, I'll tell you what. I'm glad that, by sticking my neck out, by actually raising issues that a lot of people are talking in these private conversations, I have tried to bring to the notice of the Congress leadership, which includes not just the president or Mr. Gandhi or the CWC, the fundamental fault lines, what I call as the seminal flaws that the Congress party needs to overcome at the earliest. If anybody reads my 2 articles in the Congress party, I can challenge anyone to say, where is anything written there in those articles that makes the Congress look bad? Here is someone who's expressing his anguish, for God's sake. And I'm telling you, I'm sure I'm a manifestation of the voices of millions of other Congress people who feel the same way.
Sanjay, I read your piece. I read all your articles. In fact, I've seen your Twitter activity ever since the 7th of June. And even before that, while you were introspecting and recovering well from COVID-19. But Sanjay, here's the point. If you say there was nothing bad in those articles, and I agree with you, then when Sonia Gandhi signs a diktat, which says very clearly, it was actually a message being sent out to you that Mr. Sanjay Jha is dropped. She didn't need to say that. She signed that document. She said it, he's dropped as the spokesperson of the Congress party. When she sends out that message, who do you think is to be blamed for this? Is Sonia Gandhi unable to understand a simple piece that was written by you? Or has Sonia Gandhi been misfed wrong information against you? Or is Sonia Gandhi just intolerant to any point of view that is contrary to the family's interests?
Well, I cannot speculate on whether somebody has read my article or not. But yes, when I thought about it...
without reading the article?
Yeah,
Sonia Gandhi sacked you without reading that article?
I don't have an idea, right? I really don't know whether people
does that say about her leadership, Sanjay?
So I think the larger point I wish to make, and Shahzad, you know politics pretty well. I think in every political party, there are characters, there are very insecure people with their own vested interests who try and destabilize a rising independent thought or a narrative. And I do believe that if I know from my experience of having worked with Mrs. Gandhi in 2004, I would feel that, for her to be involved in the nitty-gritties of, what I wrote and what I said and where I came from, I was very confident she'll appreciate my stance. So whether it's somebody else who's manipulated it, I cannot comment on it, honestly. I have no idea.
No, let me tell you why you're wrong here. Sanjay, I'll tell you why you're wrong here, okay? And we'll have a conversation on this. Sanjay, had she been a responsible leader, she obviously knows about you. She's obviously seen you defending the party, working for the party, even before you became a spokesperson of the party, right? Had that information come to her that Sanjay has done some anti-party activity on which some action needs to be taken, then the right thing for her to do would be, let's call Sanjay Jha, let's give him a fair hearing. That's principles of natural justice. And then I will decide whether Sanjay has erred or he has said something for the better of the party. She didn't do that. She sacked you. It means only 2 things. One, that she is completely guided by somebody who fills her ears and she agrees to it. Or second, that she is so intolerant that she read your piece and despite it being a good message for the party, because it was against the interests of her family in that sense, she said, Sanjay, pack your bags up.
Well, Shahzad, all I can say sitting here in Mumbai today and answering you is this, that the Congress's overreaction to, frankly, a piece of
calling it an overreaction?
I definitely believe that, end of day, anybody who reads my article will recognize that I'm coming from a very good place. The suggestions are constructive. If I'm giving the party the suggestion that you should have 5 vice presidents, regional head for West, East, South, North, and Northeast supporting the president, decentralized power, make your funding absolutely transparent, have a shadow cabinet, make sure that the CWC and the Congress president is elected. Make sure that the Congress president has a limited tenure, so you have to have a new president every 6 years. What is wrong with these suggestions? So I have absolutely no clue. I was very taken aback, to be honest. But end of day, as far as I'm concerned, I will continue to be a voice for the party. But the party has its internal challenges, and the steps they have taken vindicate the very, very criticism that I made of the party, if you can call it that.
Sanjay, let's recap what you said. You said you were taken aback. Those are your words. You said that it was an overreaction to take the action they took on you, reading an article which raised legitimate points, and I agree those points were legitimate. One of the other things that you said is that the party lacks an internal democratic process, which you're alluding to, something that I also alluded to when I said that there were no elections. It was just a coronation. Sanjay, but here's the point. This is the exact same allegation that Mr. Amit Shah has made in his tweets yesterday when they were remembering the 45th year of the emergency. They even spoke about the treatment meted out to you. There's another place that the same thing happened. The CWC meeting, which was held recently, you had Rahul Gandhi, according to the Economic Times report, flying into rage when RPN Singh merely told him that let's not attack Mr. Modi personally, let's raise the questions on the Indo-China situation, but let's avoid any kind of personal attack. It was a legitimate suggestion, but there was an intolerant virtual descending like a ton of bricks, as you would put it, on the leadership. So I am asking you, Sanjay, whose responsibility is it to allow voices of dissent, of opposing views to emerge in the party? Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka, they don't allow it. That means they are intolerant. Amit Shah is right.
Well, Shehzad, I belong to the school of thought that, sticks to that one famous principle. I think it was mentioned by Evelyn Hall, that I do not probably agree with you, but I will fight, as they say, I will defend to death your right to say it. I mean, that is my, shall we say, core quintessential credo of a great democratic party.
Is it Sonia Gandhi's and Rahul Gandhi's from the evidence before us?
Well,
they virtually ill-treated RPN Singh according to that article. They do not allow any other voices other than their own family voices to prevail in the party. Does that Voltairean spirit prevail in the Gandhi family? That's the question.
Well, Shehzad, the fact is that once upon a time in the Congress party it did. And therefore I have mentioned that we have drifted away from those very principles. And I think these were the highest principles of the Congress. Now, just think about it. One of the reasons why I joined the Congress, Shehzad, let me tell you this, is because when I was a young kid, in school and in the early years of my college, my father used to always gift me a book on my birthday besides the cake and some gift and stuff. And I used to read a lot on the freedom struggle, Gandhi's My Experiment with Truth, Nehru's Discovery of India. I became a natural, strong believer in the Congress ideology. And I do believe that the Congress ideology mirrors the constitution of a country, secular, liberal, tolerant, progressive, and inclusive country. And this is what we must be. Clearly, I can tell you the fact that today, if we have lost so much of public confidence, which is why we lose several state elections and 2 general elections where our performance has been absolutely abysmal. It's a message that something is fundamentally, needs to be corrected. That there are chinks in the armor that need to be fixed. And until you recognize that your house is in disorder, there is no way you can take on the BJP.
Sanjay, see, I'm glad that you're being frank with me, and I need you to be a little more frank, and then we'll move on to another issue that I need to raise with you on the China situation. But Sanjay, the house is in disorder. Of course, it has moved away from the values of the constitution and from what it espoused during Mahatma Gandhi's time. And therefore, when you say that it lacks an internal democratic process, it lacks internal accountability mechanisms through elections, and it also lacks the ability to allow people to voice their opinions freely, don't you think that the party, which was once upon a time a political party in the real sense, has now become a special purpose vehicle for just the interests of certain families, a certain coterie, and a particular first family of the Congress, that it has been reduced from becoming a party to a collection of certain families and the supreme family of the Congress, that is the Gandhi family. Nobody else's views matters.
Well, Shehzad, I mean, when I look at the Congress's history over the last decade, yes, I do see that we have begun to meander. There is a mindless drift. Frankly speaking, it's a very worrisome development because this is the party that really constructed modern India.
Who's responsible? Sanjay, the Congress has had Mrs. Sonia Gandhi as the president for the last 20 years. Rahul Gandhi and Sonia have been the president of the party. Alternatively, there's been no other person outside the family to lead the party. So if the party is in tatters, is in dire straits, isn't it the responsibility of the Congress leadership at the moment? That is Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi.
Well, let me tell you, Shehzad, you have been with the Congress. The point
I hold them responsible. I hold them completely responsible. I want you to take a position.
Yeah, I am taking a position. I'm saying that if you look at any organization, okay, and I've been part of some large international organizations as well, the buck always stops at the top. I don't think there can be any debate on it.
No.
But there is one real, and it is not about a self-styled leadership. If you look at the Congress, the structure demands a very active CWC to work with the Congress president so that you're able to give direction to the Congress party, not just for winning elections, but for keeping the organization strong, to make sure that you're attracting new members, and end of day you are transparent and actually becoming a party of which once it was known and labeled as a natural party of governance. Now, I do believe that the CWC has some brilliant people, but perhaps it still has a lot of people out there who are status quoist in their mind. They don't want the party to change. They're very Jurassic in their thinking. Politics has changed. I think Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah have changed the dynamics of how you basically need to win elections and probably run this country. The whole paradigm has gone through a transformation, and the Congress party is dealing with a very different animal today. I mean, the BJP is, I keep saying, a formidable machine, absolutely like a juggernaut. And if the Congress party doesn't rise right now and understand the enormity of the challenge, we are actually letting down all the millions of Karyakartas on the ground, on social media, who are fighting for the party.
I'm going to come to that. But here's what you said, Sanjay. You've described the CWC as some people in the CWC have a Jurassic and status quoist mindset. My argument to you is that Sonia Gandhi allows for this mindset to prevail because it is in her hands to finally change it. But let's move on. Sanjay, you know why you've got sacked? I'll tell you why you got sacked. Not because of your honest and brutally honest views, but you also tweeted this on the day of your sacking, just a few hours before your sacking. And I think this was the straw that broke the camel's back. Mm-hmm. This is a time for a great mature political consensus within India in responding to China's dangerous aggression, speaking out against China there. I don't care if Mr. Modi has made several outrageous rhetorical comments against Congress UPA government in the past. We must rise. Let us be different. Let us be one. I think this was the tweet, this concession, the conceding of allowing and looking at Mr. Modi as the Prime Minister of India, standing by him, even if he's made comments against the Congress party in the past. This is the same thing that wasn't tolerated by Rahul in the CWC meeting. And this is what cost you your job as spokesperson. Sanjay, don't you agree?
Well, Shahzad, I read reports that linked my tweet on China to the action taken against me as the national spokesperson of the party. But I adhere to that view, and I will say that I'm still consistent with that standpoint. And let me tell you why. I mean, everyone knows that the China-India border dispute, 4,000 kilometers, for God's sake, which is amorphous, a line of actual control where both sides have their own position on what the LAC line ought to be. We don't have a demarcated boundary. It's 120,000 square miles. We are talking about terribly uncharted territory here. Mm-hmm. Now, this has been there since time immemorial. Both the countries at the moment have not sorted it out. China periodically tries to leverage that, shall we say, nebulousness on the demarcation lines to try and threaten us and become the big brother. So I definitely don't want to bring politics here. Yes, it is the job of the opposition to question the government. But Shweta, let me just make one short point. I do believe that no prime minister of this country, whether, when Mr. Modi used to criticize Dr. Singh on China or Pakistan, I used to rebut Mr. Modi because I said, listen, no Indian prime minister will ever compromise on India's national security. So we should never personalize this debate. We should never personalize this debate. I agree that Mr. Modi's statement on Galwan Valley, which he made to the domestic constituency, should have been measured and calibrated because you paid it to that. But I do think that we should not be targeting individuals at this point because that is actually taking a very parochial view of the challenge we face as a country.
Sanjay, I am so glad that you are taking a position here, and I'm glad. And let me articulate the position you've taken. You've said that you don't think any Indian Prime Minister will sell out the interests of the country. It held true for Manmohan Singh. It holds true for Modi. So here is the question. Why did Rahul Gandhi say surrender Modi? And do you then publicly say that Mr. Rahul Gandhi is wrong when he punned on the word surrender and said, Mr. Prime Minister, you are Surinder Modi. in a sense, he was attacking the Indian army too, because he was implying that the Indian army basically surrendered land to the Chinese. And you say that that's not the case. No Indian prime minister would do that.
Well, let me tell you, even if China today is trying to make claims on the Galwan Valley, the fact of the matter is that India needs to actually be very categorical and continue with this border security enforcements all along the border. We need to actually get into a more aggressive military standoff, try and actually work diplomatically to ensure that China actually faces investigations on the coronavirus epidemic and how it leaked out.
Sanjay,
we need to work cohesively together.
Sanjay, I want a direct answer. When Rahul Gandhi says that China has occupied Indian land, when he says that Indian soldiers have basically lost land to China, have conceded land to China, that when Shashi Tharoor likes a tweet which basically amplifies the Chinese propaganda that no Chinese soldiers have died, only Indian soldiers died, and when Mr. Rahul Gandhi says surrender Modi, do you think that that position is actually against the interests of India and plays into the hands of the Chinese? That's a simple question.
Well, let me just say this in short. I agree with what RPN Singh was probably saying in the CWC meeting. Is, when you are discussing foreign policy and national security, focus on the issues on the ground, and all those issues concerned, please go ahead and question the government. There is absolutely no problem.
Sanjay,
but I do not, I'm finishing my line, Shehzad. I do not believe in ad hominem attacks. I do believe that Mr. Narendra Modi, for all the bravado statement that he made, will not, and I'm very convinced of it. I believe no non-Congress, non-BJP, no prime minister will ever allow an inch of this country to go to a foreign invader,
Sanjay,
China or any country in the world. We should have that trust and faith in our political system.
Sanjay, why aren't people then telling Mr. Rahul Gandhi, who claims that Indian land has been ceded to China? He has said that the Chinese have come in, occupied land, Mr. Modi is hiding. And if you were handling Rahul Gandhi's Twitter account, because I know that somebody else handles it for him, if you were handling Rahul Gandhi's Twitter account, would you ever tweet surrender Modi? Don't you think that tweet was absolutely unbecoming of Rahul Gandhi, the position he holds?
Well, I do believe one thing, Shehzad. One of the best ways to actually defeat your opponent is by being more, shall we say, mature, intelligent, sophisticated.
That tweet was immature?
No, I would say that I do not.
Come on, Sanjay, take a position now. Let's.
Let me give you one answer.
Give me your verdict. Was that tweet immature? It's your words. It's your words, not mine.
Let me give you one word. The Congress party did trend surrender Modi, if I'm not mistaken, on the Twitter. I did not participate in it because I do believe that there are certain positions that are august by their very definition. And we should respect shall we say, the chair holds a certain accountability, which is why I have questioned Mr. Modi very often when, as the Prime Minister, he made statements on why not being pro-majority, pro-minority. We have a right to question both Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah, who have very often, I think, taken license with extremely excessive communal politics and, very sectarian views. But on this matter of foreign policy, I would say that question the government. Let us not make it so personalized that we miss the woods for the trees.
And Sanjay, what I'm hearing, and I would sum it up like this, is that you are saying let's keep the country's interests above partisan political interests. I compliment you for that view, but let me move on to another topic. Sanjay Jha, a lot of noise is being made, and I know that you've been part of the party, not just after you joined, but even as a supporter of the party. I was a part of the party in 2008. Now, I never heard of this so-called MOU that was signed between Rahul Gandhi and between the Chinese. It's yesterday, Mr. Anand Sharma, in fact, a couple of days ago, Anand Sharma has conceded that yes, there was a party-to-party exchange that was signed between the Congress side, between Rahul Gandhi and between the CPC of China. Now, I want to ask you, as a party member, did you ever know that the Congress had signed such a deal with the Chinese? If so, do you have a copy of that deal? Have you ever seen the copy of that MOU? And don't you think the Congress should, in public interest, make the copy of that MOU public? What is there to hide in that?
Shehzad, now that I'm no longer the official party spokesperson, I don't have any access to what is the Congress argument. So I'll be very honest with you, I can't really answer.
I'm not asking you about the Congress argument, Sanjay. I'm asking you that you were a part of the party. I guess you were a part of the party just after 2008 and also in 2008, even if you were not an official member of the party, I was. And I can tell you from my recollection, but I'm asking you for yours, since 2008 to the time you were sacked as spokesperson, if this was a party-to-party exchange, there was nothing to hide from the Congress party's end, as Anand Sharma would like us to believe. Did you ever see a copy of this so-called MOU, or is it right for Amit Shah and the BJP and Mr. Nadda to say that it is a secret MOU and perhaps it's not being disclosed because it contains certain secrets that only the Chinese government and Mrs. Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi know about?
So I'll be very honest. I started working informally for the Congress even before the 2004 elections. So actually, informally, I'm saying I didn't formally become a member. I started working for the Congress pre-2004 when the party was expected to be wiped out, devastated, and get less than 90 seats. We won that election. So I do believe I was a mascot for the Congress during that election. But I officially joined the party much later. This was around 2013.
Okay. Let's put it differently. I know, Sanjay, your skills to be a party spokesperson are still very good. They've not been affected even after you've been sacked or the bout of COVID. But should the Congress party, in the interest of transparency and accountability, not make the deal public? The pictures are out. People are asking for investigations. I'm not going into that. But I'm saying if there's nothing to hide, Mr. Anand Sharma said that, yes, there was an exchange. Why not put the damn deal out?
Well, I can tell you this for a fact that every transaction for a foundation, even for a private limited company, has to be in the public domain. And I'm very sure that, whatever must have been exchanged would be in good faith, following all the legalities of the land, and, probably will honor whatever other traditions of gender.
If it is in good faith, if it is in good faith.
So I cannot comment on the disclosure policies, but yes, it is always good to be transparent.
Had you been the president of the Congress party and people were inquisitive to know about this deal because there's no other way to access it except for the Congress to make it public. Sanjay Jha is the president of the Congress party who espouses values of democracy and tolerance and accountability. Would Sanjay Jha, as president of the Congress party, make the 2008 deal public?
Well, let me put it like this. If the law of the land makes it obligatory on me to disclose it because of...
What about morality, Sanjay?
I'm coming to that. If the law of the land mandates me to make that disclosure in the event of maybe an allegation, then I will. If it doesn't, it's a call that the foundation, whoever other trustees need to take. I really can't comment on it.
What is the message you're sending out when you receive 90 lakh rupees in the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation in 2005-2006? You sign a deal in 2008, which despite people asking you to make it public, you keep on hiding it. You say it's a party-to-party exchange, but you hide it. And then from 2010 to 2013, you take certain steps that basically compromise the economic interests of India, because now we see the trade deficit had increased during that time. We also see that we had conceded space to China when it came to Ladakh. We lost 640 square kilometers. We lost Doom Cheli. We lost Demjok. We lost Tia Pangnak. We lost Chapji Ghati. All of this during Mr. Manmohan Singh's time, who allowed 600 incursions to happen. So now I'm asking you in this context, Sanjay Jha, when you hide the deal, what message does it send?
Shehzad, this calls for a correction. First and foremost, let me tell you this, and I go back to the fundamental point. The Chinese let down Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru in 1962. And everybody knows that we had too much of faith and trust in the Chinese then. And clearly, Mr. Modi has made the same mistake of having the same faith and trust in the Chinese today. The truth of the matter is, there is no question of a political quid pro quo and all that. But please, let's just get that out of our head. I come back to the fundamental point that no political party in our country ever will do anything which is anti-India interest. No one. I don't think. The question of the Congress doesn't arise. I don't think even the BJP would do that.
Sanjay,
I'm making a bigger point. Just hear me out, Shehzad.
I'm coming to the bigger point, but let me get you on this point first. So let me get you on this point. You are saying that the RGF receiving 90 lakh rupees at a time when the Chinese were making anti-India statements, and I remember the statements they made on Arunachal Pradesh in that entire period. RGF is controlled by Sonia Gandhi. It has Manmohan Singh. It has P. Chidambaram. It has the same people who are the functionaries of government. They received this money, and you're saying that it is perfectly fine. That is this is a quid pro quo. They are wrong, but this money is perfectly legitimate for China to pay a special purpose vehicle of the Gandhi family money. Are you saying that's okay?
Well, let me tell you, there are laws, right? There are laws under which monies come in and monies go out.
It wasn't disclosed.
If it is mandated to, it would be. But don't forget, there was a UPA in 3 weeks that in Depsang, when you had this major Chinese standoff, in 3 weeks, the UPA got the Chinese out of there. Please also remember, it was during PV Narasimha Rao's time when you had the border tranquility and peace agreement that actually resulted in a very stable border situation. And I want to remind you that it is today that 20 soldiers of India have been killed. But Shehzad, go back. 45 years ago was the last time it happened. And the last time somebody died, it was an accident. It was not a killing. It was an accident. So these are important points. I mean, the Congress has actually managed the China relationship a lot better than what Mr. Modi has done. Mr. Modi has visited China so many times, but the border skirmishes, and clearly China is belligerent. China is bellicose on India because it wants to send out a message that you're inching too close to America. And the fact that at this point of time, we are probably even closer to Japan and Australia and some Southeast Asian countries is making China very nervous. Look at the way China is attacking its own Taiwan and Hong Kong. So you are dealing with a very hegemonic, expansionary country at this point. And therefore, I have said it, what I have said, Shehzad. It is important for the Congress and the BJP to approach this as a national challenge. We need to be very bipartisan. Let's not get into the Congress did this because friendly with the Chinese. Forget it. That's a total humbug acquisition. It has no foundation whatsoever.
Sanjay, I disagree with you on the handling of the situation during the Congress regime and the BJP regime. You remember Mr. Antony, he said that we did not develop infrastructure across the LAC. Today, despite the Chinese stance, we continue to build infrastructure, whether it's the DSDBO road or the bridge over Galwan. But that's not the point. The point is, Sanjay, it's a perception game, right? The perception is that the Indian National Congress does not stand with the Indian army when it's a surgical strike, it questions it. Balakot strike, it questions it. Now, to dispel that perception, if somebody says that let us not call Mr. Modi surrender Modi or imply or make accusations against the Indian army by that route, or secondly, if you have received some money and there is a deal, make that deal public so that there's nobody that can question that there is a secret deal. Nobody can do these 9 p.m. debates, which you no longer go to. Sanjay, don't you think that from a perception point of view, the Congress party should say, here's the deal, there's nothing in it? Why doesn't the Congress party say it?
Shehzad, since you mentioned Pulwama and Balakot, I want to mention this very clearly. I'm no longer the official spokesperson, but the Congress party has fought a war against Pakistan in 1947, 65, 71. No, hear me out. And decisively triumphed. I mean, to say that the Congress party won't back the Indian army is absolutely absurd and an atrocious proposition. I want to make the point here that the Congress party backed the Prime Minister on Pulwama and the Balakot strike. The only point that the Congress mentioned was, don't politicize it into an election campaign stunt. I mean, these are the blood of the martyrs. I can't distinguish the two. That's all. That's all.
Sanjay, you're defending surrender Modi, you're defending the surgical strike comments, you're defending the Balakot airstrike comments. It clearly seems, Sanjay, that you actually continue to play the role of a Congress spokesperson despite not being one. Sorry to say that. I think the spokesperson out of you hasn't been redeemed.
Well, Shehzad, let me tell you, I'm a congressman first. A spokesperson is just a designation. Every Congress leader is a spokesperson in some sense. But the larger point is, I haven't backed, correction, I haven't backed surrender Modi. I mean, you said that. I haven't backed that. Okay. I've said I'm against personalized attacks. I'm going to do a quick... And I do believe the Prime Minister, I would trust him. I don't approve of his ideology in politics. Okay. But on national security, I would trust my Prime Minister, yes.
We have last 5 minutes left, so I'm going to do a quick rapid fire round. I know that a lot of your friends in Bollywood, where you stay in Bombay, do this on their TV shows. I'm going to do a quick rapid fire. Sanjay, you have to answer in one word and one word only, right? So let's keep it quick and let's keep it moving. Sanjay Jha, would Sanjay Jha ever consider joining the Bharatiya Janata Party?
No.
Does Sanjay Jha feel comforted when Mr. Nadda and Mr. Amit Shah speak up for his cause and say, here is a voice that has been silenced?
Yes, that's fine. Yeah.
Does Mr. Sanjay Jha believe that Prime Minister Modi has not surrendered an inch of land to the Chinese, as has been alleged by Rahul Gandhi?
Well, if Mr. Modi has said nothing has been surrendered...
One word, Sanjay, one word.
Okay. So your question again, I'll try and... I don't know whether
does Mr. Sanjay Jha believe that the Prime Minister has not surrendered an inch of land to the Chinese as alleged by Rahul Gandhi?
I would agree that Mr. Modi hasn't surrendered any land, no. Yeah.
So therefore, would Sanjay Jha then believe that surrender Modi was actually an immature tweet by Rahul Gandhi?
I don't agree with that tweet. Yes.
Would you call it immature?
Yeah, I'm not going to give it a definition.
Okay, and Sanjay, would you think that it is high time for the Congress party to look for leadership outside a dynasty and preferably outside the Gandhi family if it has to improve and perhaps give a challenge to Mr. Narendra Modi?
It's an idea whose time has come. Yes.
So, Sanjay Jha, you're telling me that if they make no changes, you would continue to voice your opinion for the party that refuses to change, to see the changing tide of time in Indian politics?
I'm very confident, Shehzad. I'm very bullish, very optimistic. I have very sanguine expectations of the Congress party. It's a party with a history, a legendary contribution to India's freedom struggle. I keep repeating, we have built modern India, the institutions of governance. It's about time the Congress party realized that it can do very well right up to 24.
And the final question,
but we need to reinvent ourselves.
Final question, yes or no, Sanjay Jha would never, ever, ever, ever join Mr. Modi or the BJP?
Absolutely no chance whatsoever. No.
All right, Sanjay, candid as ever. Thank you very much. It was an exciting and exhilarating interaction with you. I thank you for your forthrightness, but it has obviously cost you your job in the Congress party, where that is obviously not tolerated. I wish you luck with your future endeavors. Thank you very much, Sanjay. We'll meet soon.
Thank you, Shehzad. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. That's it from me, and we'll get you another edition next week. Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.